Hello, and thank you for tuning in today on the History Podcast. On today's episode, we will be discussing the fall of the Aztec Empire and the multiple advantages the Spanish had over the Aztecs. We will also be discussing the perspectives each side had and how each side perceived each other. So sit back, relax, and prepare a cup of tea as we discuss history. It all started when the governor of Hispaniola, Velázquez, got curious about the Yucatan Peninsula and sent 2 expeditions. When the explorers got back from their expedition, Governor Velázquez discovered that there was another civilization out there, better, richer, and stronger than any other civilization Spain has ever encountered before. This made Cortés, Governor Velázquez's partner at the time, want to explore this new region and find this mysterious civilization. Hernán Cortés made this following speech as his men prepared to set sail in the harbor of Cuba. I know in my heart that we shall take vast and wealthy lands. We are waging a just and good war, which will bring us fame. Almighty God, in whose name it will be waged, will give us victory. If you do not abandon me, as I shall not abandon you, I shall make you the richest men who have ever crossed the seas. And after that speech, Hernán Cortés and his crew prepared to set sail. However, Governor Velázquez tried to stop Hernán Cortés and his crew from continuing their expedition. His reasons was that he feared that Cortés would take glory, fame, and credit from him. However, his efforts were futile as Hernán Cortés and his men continued to set sail. Now you may be asking, what was Hernán Cortés's plan to overthrow such a mysterious and powerful civilization? Well, as Hernán Cortés and his men finally landed in the Caribbean, Cortés wasted no time into enacting his plan. Cortés's strategy to overthrow the Aztecs was to recruit other tribes, peoples, and groups to help him conquer the Aztecs, which wasn't much of a problem as some of the other groups thought that they were being taxed way too much by the Aztecs and joined willingly to Cortés's cause. He was able to communicate with the other groups because he had a translator, Donna Maria, a native slave given to Cortés in 1589 by the natives of Tabasco, and helped Cortés by being his translator and helping him forge relationships and alliances with the other groups and tribes. However, some groups were deeply loyal and allies to the Aztecs, so Cortés had to either convince the other tribes or force the other tribes to join him. While Cortés was communicating with the other tribes, Aztec spies were able to spot him and his men and reported their findings to the emperor of the Aztec Empire, Moctezuma. Unfortunately for Moctezuma, Cortés's arrival matched up a time in the Aztec calendar when the Aztecs weren't allowed to wage war. Also predicted by the Aztec calendar, their god, Quetzalcoatl, was predicted to be a bearded man coming from the south to finally end the world. And unfortunately for Moctezuma, and by sheer coincidence, Hernán Cortés matched this description, being a bearded man coming from the south seemingly to end the world as the Aztecs known it. With this knowledge and religious beliefs that prevented Moctezuma from confronting Hernán Cortés, he decided to do nothing and let Hernán Cortés continue his march to the city. And when Hernán Cortés finally made it to Tenochtitlan, the capital city of the Aztec Empire, Moctezuma welcomed Hernán Cortés and his men into the city with open arms and proceeded to give them a tour. Moctezuma showed them around their great city, and the Spanish noting that they had lots of gold. However, when Moctezuma showed the Spanish around their religious temples, the Spanish were horrified, because on the temples they saw human blood, remains, and bodies on the temples. The Spanish were horrified by the idea of human sacrifice, and some of Hernán Cortés's own men begged him to leave the city because they feared the Aztecs would sacrifice them next. However, Hernán Cortés refused to leave not until he conquered the Aztecs. Sometime later, after Hernan Cortez was able to gain Moctezuma's trust, he held him and all of the Aztecs hostage. He then proceeded to loot the Aztecs, stealing and melting down their gold and destroying all of their religious artifacts, and scrubbing their temples free of human blood and human remains, putting up Catholic crosses on the temples instead. Having enough of this abuse, the Aztecs decided to launch an attack against the Spanish. However, the Spanish had the advantage, like advanced weaponry like guns and cannons, and animals that terrified the Aztecs like horses and bull mastiffs. However, by a sheer miracle, the Aztecs were able to drive out the Spanish for a time being. Eventually, the Spanish came back to finish what they started, with reinforcements from Governor Velasquez, enemy turned ally after Hernan Cortez convinced them to join his side. However, the Aztecs were severely weakened after being exposed to a secret weapon the Spanish had. That weapon being in the form of smallpox, an unknown virus to the Aztecs which they had no immunity to. And was the Aztecs severely weakened, the Spanish had no problems conquering them. Hernan Cortez finally succeeded in his goal. Sometime later, after the Spanish conquered the Aztecs, their emperor, Moctezuma, dies. Was the cause of his death not clear, having two conflicting reasons for the cause of his death on each side. Was the Spanish thinking he was stoned to death by the Aztecs, and was the Aztecs thinking the Spanish stabbed him? These two stories cannot be confirmed due to a lack of evidence, and it is unlikely that we will ever learn the truth. And was the Aztecs defeated and Moctezuma gone, there was no one to stop the Spanish from making a new city on top of the ruins of Tenochtitlan, New Spain. And that is how the Spanish conquered the Aztecs. Thank you for joining me on today's History Podcast, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care now.